is nothing more important to the World Bank Group and to IFC than getting it right in fragile and conflict-affected countries. And there's nothing more important to getting it right in those countries than to create sustainable sources of livelihoods and jobs that give citizens a stake and a sense of hope.
CASA is one of our important programs in tackling the challenges in fragile and conflict-affected states. As Africa has the largest number of fragile and conflict-affected countries, IFC and its partners have accordingly been working together on a specific model that provides targeted IFC support for fragile situations in Africa. The program combines a presence on the ground, even in some countries where there is no IFC office, with funding to relevant projects, and as Michel Bozung, the manager for CASA, will tell you later, sharing lessons on what works or doesn't work. The private sector is the engine of economic growth and job creation. This we know, we have learned over the years, we have tons of examples. Most jobs are created by the private sector, as it gives more people a stake in peace and stability. I will insist on that one. It gives more people a stake in peace and stability. So at IFC, we are particularly focused on providing access to infrastructure with a focus on energy and logistics, access to finance with a focus on risk capital for high-growth small and medium enterprises. Of course, we don't forget the microfinance. Access to markets with a focus on agribusiness supply chains, and an improved enabling environment for business. These areas are critical priorities for IFC and our joint IFC World Bank global practices. The key I would like to emphasize today is partnership. Partnership across many dimensions to come up with creative solutions. Partnerships with bilateral and multilateral donors, first of all, has been pivotal for our work in these difficult markets. Many of these partners have joined us for the spring meetings, and I thank some of you for being present today. And of course, our key partners in CASA are co-hosting the event with us today. The Netherlands, Norway, Ireland, and Denmark have recognized the importance of taking new approaches to working in conflict-affected states.
The battle against poverty will only be won if we are active on fragile states. And that's why I'm incredibly delighted to be here at IFC, because IFC needs to be a strong partner in the World Bank Group, is a strong partner of us, and IFC is incredibly important. Because if you look at the goals of the New Deal for fragile states, it includes jobs. You mentioned it yourself, Mr. Vice President. And those jobs are not going to be provided just by governments. We need the private sector to be there. We need to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit of youth in a lot of these countries, a lot of countries with the youth bulge of women. So a lot needs to be done. These are the countries where the MDGs are not going to be achieved. CASA is a very innovative instrument to work on these issues. The fact that advice and investment are combined, that on the one hand you can learn from investment, on the other hand investment can benefit from the advice on the enabling environment, on regulations, on giving advice to intermediaries, through intermediaries to entrepreneurs. I think there's an awful lot of potential to do good things, and the fact that there's an increasing presence on the ground of IFC is a very welcome indeed. We're very happy having this group with Ireland, Norway, the Netherlands and Denmark and some others, but I think more partners should join, because we can really make a difference here. We can really make the battle against poverty happen through unleashing the spirit of the private sector.
Norway has the privilege of being a long-term partner to the IFC, and we have supported the CASA initiative, along with Cohen and others, from the start 7 years ago, and we will continue to do so. The concept of CASA has fruitfully evolved. It is now a solid and mature approach, as the Vice President pointed out as well, to supporting private sector development in the countries that need it most. Norway would welcome additional donors supporting CASA, together with us, who are here already. Additional support will provide leverage. We can widen the scope of activities in line with what the Vice President pointed out, and we can enhance the impact. To quote President Kennedy, we do it not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And that's why we are here.
our focus has been on developing the social infrastructure that's required to help an economy become resilient and to have real inclusive economic growth where nobody is left behind. And our new aid programme actually has a new focus on countries of fragility, and we are focusing our resources on those countries where the needs are greatest and where human rights are at risk. But I'd like to just join my colleagues from the Netherlands and Norway who made the point that it's a very small group of donors, and we do hope that that group will become bigger.
Our country disappeared for some months because of international support, United Nations support, our bilateral support. We tried to save this country together. And now we are trying to rebuild. How to rebuild? We are sure that government, public funds only can't ensure this success. We have to involve private sector. Only investment can restore hope. Only investment can avoid to fragile country to collapse. That's my point of view at this step of debate.
My brother is here actually for the World Bank spring meetings, and this morning he said to me, "Life begins at the end of your comfort zone." I said, "What?" But actually, I mean, it's actually a great way to think about FCS, right? So we all have to go beyond our comfort zone to be able to get things done in FCS. I think as IFC, we have to go beyond our sort of typical credit criteria of, do we have the security we need? We have to go beyond our comfort zone. Our government partners have to go beyond their comfort zone as far as, going the extra mile to make the private sector, comfortable and give them the confidence that they need. And our partners too have to go beyond their comfort zone and maybe making some investments along with us that do help a private company that's the first of its kind to go into FCS. So we all have to kind of go outside of our comfort zone if we really want to make a difference in these markets. We want to talk a little bit about CASA, and I think CASA many years ago actually, they took us outside our comfort zone in about 2007 or 2008. They said, let's put some staff in Sierra Leone and Liberia. Let's put some staff, in Burundi where we had no presence. And some of our teams probably said, but we're doing deals in Mexico and Brazil. Why are we going to go to Burundi right now? We haven't done a deal there in 50 years. So this kind of program, I think was kind of a pioneer in getting IFC to actually have, feet or, boots on the ground or feet on the ground in these countries, and let us start to learn about these markets and get to know these markets. And we started with advisory, and now I think Michelle is pushing this really to how we can do more investment in some of these markets.
So the first thing is I would like to highlight, it's very simple, only 3 colors and 3 rows. It's the way, the founding principle of the CASA model. And it's really 3 things. On the one side, as several of the intervenants were highlighting, it's the presence on the ground. And I think it cannot be emphasized enough, the difference it makes to have someone on the ground, rather than having this fly-in, fly-out model where we have key expertise but no local market intelligence. So having people on the ground, whatever it may cost to some extent, having them living there, understanding the markets, following up with the government, our development partners, understanding the dynamics. I think this local market intelligence is something absolutely key. The second one is, it's called funding programs. So what does it mean? So CASA is not actually subsidizing IFC's investment, but what we are trying to do is to provide funding to make projects happen in fragile and conflict situations. So those projects can be on the one side, and it has been so far the bulk of what we have been doing, is enabling the business environment. So really increasing improving the investment climate has been the core element of the CASA interventions. What I've been trying to do with the support of my Philippe, the regional directors, is really broaden out a little bit the scope and go beyond just investment climate, but really have something, a larger portfolio which has on the one side enabling the environment, but also generating investments, and then trying to broaden the impact of the investments. So, and the third element is something that's the red one actually, KM. KM, that's one of our internal jargons, knowledge management, and I think it's something that was to some extent underdeveloped so far, but we would like to put a strong emphasis on that. KM, it's not about theoretical knowledge, but the very operational, practical understanding of what does it take to do a difference in those markets. So we would really like, with the support of our partners, to invest significantly in knowledge management, in understanding better what works, what doesn't work, and sharing those lessons quite broadly and quite widely. So that's, in a nutshell, the CASA model and the concept. Here you have a slide. We have a nice map of Africa with, again, some colors. I think the red ones are the ones where you have currently some CASA presence, or you had until recently CASA presence. And those are 9 markets in Africa. But you have also the blue ones. So the red plus the blue gives you the current list of 17 plus 2 African fragile and conflict situations. So our ambition, the CASA model, has been incubated and applied and rolled out in the red markets. We would like, with your support, to roll it out more systematically across Africa and to address the challenge of serving most of the FCS countries there. So a couple of key things. On the left-hand side, you have the actual outcomes of the program during its first phase, and on the right-hand side, you have the targets that we agreed upon for the current period, so which just started last year and goes all the way to 2018. As of today, CASA is operating with actual and committed contribution of about $35 million. Based on all our assumptions, to be more effective, we would like to take that from where we are today and go towards $70 or $100 million of funding to pay for the infrastructure on the ground and channel as much funding as possible to projects.
You are an entrepreneur. You came back to your country in the wake of conflict, and then you suffered through the challenge of Ebola. What is your source of resilience, and how can we pull and draw on that force to help the private sector?
We have gone from one conflict, which was a war, 10-year war, and just as we thought we were coming out of it, we were hit by another conflict, the Ebola virus. But one big lesson that I think we've all learned on the ground is that where we thought we were developing, coming out of it, having good figures of 77% growth, it was all perhaps an illusion, because that 7% growth was driven by the extractive industries. And once Ebola came, or because the commodity prices dropped and then Ebola came, the extractive industries folded. So we've had to fall back on our own internal resilience. And this is where I think the job that IFC and the CASA program is doing is going to sustain us. Because here now we are talking about real sustainable development.
I got started. Now Ferrad is a manufacturing business company based in Bujumbura. We are focusing on entire construction and design of home and office. Through the past year, we had challenges, access of finance, affordable finance, access of renewable energy, and then also we hard to find local skills. So when you are talking about access of affordable finance, it's hard to have a loan when you don't have your collateral. When you find one is on high interest rate and you have a short term to return it. Imagine you have a government tender. You win a government tender, and then, as we know a little bit in Africa, they pay not on time. So it affects your business. When we are talking about energy, myself, I cannot afford to run a business with only generator on it. It will increase my cost. Therefore, I will have less profit. In Burundi, we are so behind when it comes to vocation training. compared to East Africa. So I found myself struggling to find good worker who have standard that I was looking for. But with all of this challenge, I can say we're still growing, we're still innovate, we're still also creating jobs. Today I have 40 employees. So it is a challenge, but we are trying to do our best to create jobs.
The biggest threat to peace in Burundi was not ethnicity, that the biggest threat to peace was poverty. And therefore, as IFC and as CASA on the ground, our role as an institution and a part of the World Bank Group was to help address all those challenges that will lead to job creation. And in Burundi, what we're doing is really that ecosystem approach is really addressing the challenges of the small business, from access to credit, to registration of your company, access to electricity, paying your taxes, how long does it take you to pay your taxes. And I think in Burundi we made great progress in that area.